reach our funding target. And that's it for tonight. I hand you over to Tony Seeley. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Sorry? Yes, cool. So ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the show. And what we're going to do now, we're going to conduct some kind of Q&A. So it gives you a little bit of a chance to really talk to these amazing people who have put on this show tonight. Questions from the audience, please let us begin. We've got about 10 minutes. Who would like to start? Anybody? Yes, please.
How did the idea for the play come about? What we do with the BMC, which is called the Black Men's Consortium, we deal with real life issues in the now. And one of the things that came up was climate change, which is what a lot of people talk about. And to some people in certain communities, it's the #1 priority. In other communities, it's not, because like you said, about cost of living, making sure that your children go to school with healthy meals, making sure they come home safely. They are more of a priority than climate change. Yes, it's important, but that's something in 30 years' time. So we thought we'd put a play on around climate change to see how you, the public, what you think is a more priority. Breakfast Club!
Basically, none of us gave a shit about climate change. Yourself, I recycle. We thought that was, let's be real about it, let's be honest. And we thought that was kind of interesting because obviously that's not true of the general population. There's obviously a lot of concern for climate change. So we kind of thought, let's try and research and explore this topic and see if we can kind of spark some interest. We tried.
There's people that was coming on real now, like fish and the famous brothers. And then I realized when we in the Caribbean and they every dog was it was that sudden hurricane. And landslide as they always fall down, and then the 200 of them because you will love that.
Now it comes to them, they realize. Yeah.
So was having climate change a long time ago?
Young man at the back with the hat had his hand up first. Yes, you.
One of the things that interests me in the play is what you talk about in an estate like this, the sense of community. My experience isn't that with the selfish culture that we live under now, you don't really get that sense of community.
I agree. That wasn't a question, was it?
Young lady with the glasses and that head wrap.
First of all, I'll address this question. This gentleman came in the bakery today, and somebody who appeared that may be struggling to pay his bill at the back, he offered to pay. That is community. I see community every day, but in a very abstract way, not in a way that you think. Yes.
Young lady, hold on. Hold on.
My thing is, are we aware how climate change impacts us? Living in West London, I'm aware how it impacts me on one level, but coming to Brixton, volunteering for my cousin on Atlantic Road, I'm not aware how it impacts the black community. We've got compost bin where we live. A local resident does the gardening. That's a typical middle class white community. I'm the only black girl that lives there. But in the black community, I have no awareness. Like for example, the bin truck yesterday, we disposed of a lot of drinks that was plastic, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to recycle that." And I was intrigued. I thought there's drinks in it. How are you going to recycle that? So I'm not aware how it impacts us as a business. And number 2 is a black community. Number 3 is not just the black community, the Brixton community. Then I'm not knowledgeable on that.
I should chat with full price.
Has the play changed how you look at climate change and recycling things like that yourself?
Well, I mean, that was the main point. So the first thing we established as a group is that there's a kind of standard disinterest or assumption of irrelevance of climate change, especially to the black diaspora. Once we started, having a look and doing a bit of the old research, the relevances just start piling up. So,
what do you do exactly now? Is there anything that you any actions you take?
Yeah, for me, Did you guys back in the 60s and 70s, did you ever buy those Coke bottles? You had to bring it back. Well, I would have discovered that in the 90s. That is the beginning of recycling, and that went disappeared for some strange reason. And then we had the surge into plastics and so forth. In terms of what I do, I think it depends on this lady said in West London. In West London, I noticed that they don't have different bins as such, depending on what road you live on. Whereas you have that here in South London, you have the green bins, and then you have the, and if you go in Dulwich, you got brown, green, different, depends what area you live in. So recycling on a grand scale, it actually depends what area you live in, where you can get more aware of what's recycling all about. In terms of, for me, in terms of what it changed the climate, I personally believe that, the way we're going at this moment is just a natural progression of the planet, personally for me. I think whatever we do now is still going to end up around. We always discuss about the dinosaurs and so forth. They came and left. It's the planet will always survive. I think the real concern at this moment is whether humans will survive.
Well, they won't.
We will survive.
I'll just raise that question. I know you guys know me, but just a show of hands, how many of you actually have changed your position from when you started this to now on climate change?
Changed exactly what you're talking about, really?
So what your view was at the start of your process, you started making the plates and what it is now? Have you moved? If you shifted, just put your hand in.
Yeah, I changed it.
Okay.
Oh. There's one statement I like to make that island nations, I mean, I live in Jamaica, Barbados and those places, they do see the impact tremendously. Every year the hurricanes get worse, get heat waves, it's hotter than it was previously, and so the impact is very, very stark in these areas.
Is that proof of climate change then? Because surely there was hurricanes 200 years ago.
Yes, but they're more off this and they're more vicious.
Is that? I think we're going to also, there's a lot of fishes we see that has a lot of plastic inside of them, which is contaminating us in return. And that's because our wastage and our, many of us in the Western world will sort of shift the recycling system in African countries and the Caribbean countries seas, and then we're affected by it. So in a sense, I do agree with you, but I also think this, at the end of the day, it's the nature, how it cleanses the world, in a sense. Are we speeding up? Maybe. I don't know. Time will tell.
I want to just say that, okay, it was suggested that the planet would remain the same, but 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there wasn't plastic in every water on the planet. So I recycle. I've never changed my pattern, but I recycled before this plate, and I recycle now. And I think it's very important to just harness that type of responsibility, just because plastic doesn't dissolve, and obviously they're putting it into clothes and different other things, which some of it I don't agree, but it needs to go somewhere, and I think the water is bad for it to go.
Lady at the back in the green first, then the gentleman in the black shirt, then the lady in the pink, then the old lady in with the glasses. Old lady.
Wow! Recycle that word.
Auntie with glasses.
The amount of times people have mentioned recycling is a mere demonstration of how limited people feel that's able to. And even the biggest way you can have an impact in the world is to recycle. That's very problematic to me. That brings to me the question of the theme of oppression, which wasn't really talked about directly, but I think links to absolutely everything that's the world, all the different topics, whether it be climate change, climate justice, or other things that happen on the estate, all linked to a very limited plastic thing. So I want to know how you guys relate to that. And also, my question to you was what is the biggest thing that you found amongst yourselves that you disagree about?
You live.
So, I feel like a big theme of what happened at discussion was how the burden has been put on the common person, and government action is kind of, it's a bit confused. So why do we as a people have to make big changes when big businesses are getting away with, you know, putting like the oil in the ocean keeping it to the stage, you know, they encourage us to get, you know, diesel cars, and then all of a sudden it's you guys and people have to pay. So it seems like it may or may not be a real thing, but it seems to be weaponized against poor people.
I like the poor.
Who's next?
I'm involved with some climate activism, and of course, I'm usually the only black person. And they always say to me, what do I do to get more black people? What should we do as a group to get, how come black people aren't out here with us? Do you think, I mean, I come from a time when 60s Black Panthers, I've seen how social pressure from communities, from small groups can affect the whole situation. Do you think that black people should get involved in climate activism, and if so, how?
Absolutely. Can I answer?
Yeah, go on. Quickly though.
Very prevalent. I think the more the better, because we turn out when it's partying, we turn out when it's like, you know, events. But we're not turning out when it's really necessary, when it's really needed, unless it's after the event has happened, tragic event, and then we turn out, and that's not good. We need to, you know, be more aware of people's needs and prevention.
There's clear efforts when you look at the behavioural pattern of either you know, our black community or the wider community in general, where these are the settings, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and you know, we're hearing, you know, different ways in which that's being communicated. For that to change, it has to be something that you see from big business, that you see permeating from the media, that, you know, kind of dictates our behavioural pattern a lot of the time, if we're going to be honest with ourselves.
Just add super quickly, I think it's always going to be, and answer the gentleman's question at the back, it's always going to be difficult for, I think, the black community to kind of prioritise climate change. I think because we've got so much other important
That's what I was going to say, I was waiting to say that.
Well, you would articulate it more nicely, but I'm trying to get it quick because we're not going to prioritise it. Next.
I think not just with the black community in general, you see that it's hard to give a practical application. Like if you look when people protest, it's generally when it's convenient for you. At some point, we all have to pay the iron price for activism, and really, like, you know, how they do in China, where we're going to have to make a sacrifice to make an impact.
Can I just ask this gentleman? I'm wondering, when you go to these meetings, I can almost guarantee the majority of people are middle class. Because we look at race and we look at class, they're kind of intertwined sometimes. And so I often find that, you know, for example, Extinction Rebellion, the majority of the kids there are actually from middle class families who can afford to do things like that, and therefore they then get incarcerated out straight away because their dads are lawyers and so forth, will get access to this kind of thing. So I wouldn't surprise me if the majority of the people are actually middle class and upper class who want to do something to show they're doing something.
Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Lady, what you're doing is activism.
Sorry, what was that?
What you're doing here tonight is
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the next question.
Something that the brother was saying about the black community's involvement in climate change. It was just about, you know, because we've had this recognition about the politics of climate change, and climate change is presented as white middle class. They're the concerned citizens, they're the ones who do. So it's almost like it's a world that we can't, it's a world where we're still placed in that otherness, we're the people who don't. Which is not our traditional practices, yeah? So I need to just emphasize that. But just to give you an example, like, you know, climate change and that, what's the young woman's name? Greta. Right, there's a, I say famous, infamous, last year there was a conference, or maybe it was like 18 months ago. There was a conference and she was photographed next to a young 18-year-old African girl activist who is doing amazing things in Africa. Every major newspaper printed the picture and airbrushed the sister out of the picture. That's the politicization of climate change.
Sorry.
Lady in the green.
Yeah, sorry. Are you Danny Thompson?
I am Danny Thompson.
You sign my book afterwards.
Lady in the pink, please.
One minute.
To be fair, loads of people have said stuff that I already wanted to say, which is great. Like, I think it's so important what all these people have said. I've come down from Newcastle to be here. No. I won't be because it's not coming. Anyway, but yeah, and on Saturday we're going to be protesting about a new oil field that the government have just approved in the northeastern coast of Scotland. Right, so these are like... These are like ongoing issues. And what you were saying, like, that's been happening in the northeast too. Like, all the climate movements, I'm talking with people who are like, well, you know, I live in the most diverse part of Newcastle. And there are issues like exactly what people are talking about here, like rubbish on the streets, all these kinds of things. And the kinds of and then people get blamed, right? People are like, oh, it's the immigrants that cause these problems.
It's always the immigrants.
Yeah. But then it's also like, I think it's really interesting the title of this play, Without Planning Permission. You know? There's also the way that the system excludes people from being part of it, makes it impossible for people to have autonomy and to take action themselves. And I'm really interested in the way that you have shown us the fact that, not that there isn't community, but that there are barriers to people being in solidarity with each other and to be in solidarity with international and national issues. Like what we're talking about here, like there are people all over the world, indigenous peoples who've been fighting to defend their water, their earth, their forests for years, right? It's not invented by Brexit. But it's very difficult for people to be in solidarity when they're trying to survive, when they're living with mold in their flat, you know, when they're facing eviction. And the system makes it incredibly difficult. So I think what was really interesting tonight, there was a beautiful moment when we saw just hearing the skills in the room. And that was, you know, not everyone in the room, but hearing the skills in the room was incredible, and that's powerful. And the more we can like weaponize that back against the system and say, you will not isolate us, you will not alienate us. But I'm really interested in kind of like, for yourselves, how do you see the solutions to those barriers? Because you presented the barriers. They're real. People who were not, and like right till the end, some of your characters were still arguing with each other, you know? And you were not letting up. And I'm kind of really interested in like how you see some of those solutions to those barriers.
We're very short of time. But we're very happy to come to Newcastle and perform the show.
My coach.
Last and least, the last person to speak in a word, unity. The last person to speak will be Auntie. I'm afraid we've run out of time. Everyone has had an amazing time. What's the word? We've allowed your brains to rattle and shake.
And you're still the smartest man in the room.
So, before we depart and say thank you, please allow Auntie to have the last words.
Yes, if they took climate change seriously, they wouldn't still make manufacture throwaway rather than fix when we used to boil rickle.
We do. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you. An opportunity just to kind of have a real conversation to these amazing men about what you've seen here tonight. So we're just kind of opening up a little bit of Q&A essentially. So yeah, now is an opportunity to ask any questions about anything around what these amazing men have provided for you tonight. Can we give them another round of applause?
I prefer the communist bounty rather than the blue one.
You just made... Oh, sorry, that gentleman had a question.
Yeah. Can you repeat your question? Yeah, my question was, how has developing the play, developed it from the beginning, how has it changed you as a person?
I wasn't on crack before. Stress.
Yeah, I think like it's quite a unique space. Like, so do something with all these black men. And it starts off, obviously, we have like a mental health group, so for this part, we get together and speak about problems that affect us, and it's just a nice space to sit down and unload with other people that understand the problems that you're going through, and it kind of develops from there. There's arguments and working things out, but it really brought us together, and I think that even though kind of we don't all agree on the subject, like the climate change subject, it's been interesting, and I think the points that it's brought up have been great to discuss with all of you guys. So I think it's been a really positive experience.
Adding to your question.
I've still got
Shay. Shay. Oh, sorry, Shay.
Oh yeah, Shay's part of BMC.
Script writer. Try to hide in the background.
All of us are script writers.
I think for me personally, how it's changed as a person is being engaging in activities put on by Tony Seeley here, and just being trusting the process, which is what we use all the time. So just coming out of the comfort zone. And for example, we might be doing an activity where one person says something and then we have to follow through what that person says, and usually there's a resistance to kind of engage in a game or an activity, and I'm a bit like, I'm not too sure I want to go with it, but now it's like, you have to go with it, embrace that activity or that play, and then you come out the other side and you think, oh, I really enjoyed that experience. I just build confidence, just come out of your comfort zone. I'm not used to being in a room just full of like men of colour and just, having fun sometimes, it's just incredible. I wish young people have this space as well, where they can express themselves. And maybe that can kind of trigger that kind of a healing that the lady was speaking about earlier, that kind of environment where you can just play, just be yourself, come out your shell. You're not in an area where you have to be kind of like masculine and kind of be overprotective.
Man in the red jumper!
Yeah.
It's the first time I got to talk, bro.
On the topic of young people, not just young people, but you guys as well, how is it to interact with big topics? We talk about crime, young people, obviously climate. Has it helped you come to terms with different issues that are happening here?
Well, it's a balancing act. So, like, for example, the recent tragedy in Croydon, initially we were going to incorporate it, but then the whole group decided, and I definitely agreed that it, going at it directly with all of the details and all of that, too soon. No, just quite simply too soon. And then even in the connectivity with elements of this production that is comedic, again, too soon.
What about bigger issues that facing the world? I'm interested in the use of theatre, drama, in trying to get people thinking about or working through these big issues.
Can I answer your question? This is a question to the audience. What are you thinking about now in terms of what you've seen? Have we brought the message across? Because sometimes when you do a performance, it's always good to have good feedback from the audience. Did you get it? Because for us it's about climate change. But somehow the conversation went about community and about violence, as you just mentioned, as you just brought up as well, which is not systematic about the black community, it's systematic about a community. So I'm just wondering why it always digress into this space where we kind of trap into and not exploring a bigger space or wider community. That's the question to you, ask the audience.
So I've got a woman here and then a woman here, two women.
Lady in the grey,
yeah, two women.
with the red.
Hi, yeah, so I'm wondering how close do you find your characters are to your actual selves?
Total separation.
Not for me, I'm into the ULEZ. ULEZ is one big corruption.
And you got immigrants in your back garden as well.
Yeah, sorry, to answer you, for example, my character, which a lot of people will know, a few guys do know, is actually my neighbor. And this is real life. And he got sectioned, and when he was sectioned, he was ignored, and he's lost about 80% of his sight. So this really happened. He was sectioned in multi-hospital, came out, and he lost his sight.
Fact-based fiction.
Yeah, so for myself, my character, I resonate with my character because I'm very much into holistic, like medicine and stuff like that. When I wanted to bring the herbs, I think they should have grown the marijuana and just have some CBD. It's very good for business and it's very good for healing.
I have to say, my character came from speaking to people, especially with disabilities, who are actually ignored in the States. We often talk about... Can you put your hand down? I'm not waving at you yet. So that's where my character comes from, is the fact that sometimes we always talk about community, but we forget what makes a community.
Sue.
Can I give you feedback?
Yes, please, that's what we want.
Heartfelt thanks. As a white woman in Brixton, I've been here since 1989, and I was here around the 70s as well. As a white woman, it's sometimes quite hard to have connections, genuine, open communications with black men, other than, the kind of white male, female, male, black. I can't even speak properly, sorry.
In a safe space.
It's a safe space. What is said in here remains in here.
So what I've had is an opportunity here is to see black men being together as themselves, but also in characters as well, to really bring forward some genuine, authentic issues with what's going on.
Check it out. What they're doing is they're distracting us from the reality. We're all members of the human race, and we need to start working together to put them.
That's what Jesus said.
And then, yeah.
Can I just ask, on this journey, on this particular project, what gave you the most joy and what was most challenging?
Work with a bunch of black men with you.
Joy, I'm using the word joy.
The most joy for us is performing in front of an audience, such as yourself.
What's challenging? What was the beginning when you first started doing your research, your improvisation to find where you are now? When you first come together fresh, with no ideas, and then you started to form a little bit of the thinking that led you here, what was the most challenging?
The thing about the BMC is that we tackle everyday real life scenarios. And at the moment, with lots of things, it's climate change to some people. But to other people, it's about quality of living. Making sure that your children can go to school and come home in the same condition. Making sure they've got packed lunch, making sure you can heat your house. So what we've done this evening is, although we've done our research, we tackle real life issues amongst real life people, because we are those real life people. So that's our research.
I haven't spoken.
Yes.
I'm still new to the BMC. I joined in July, and just this process from rehearsals to now, it was a lot of research, a lot of debate, which is quite interesting, and the rehearsals in terms of trying to come up with what we're going to do unscripted was very interesting, and it was such a unique process, and it's nothing that I've ever experienced before. I also act I also act as well. This was pretty new to me.
Improv.
There was something good also, because the divisions that we experience, I think, in the wider world in this theatre, we've also experienced amongst ourselves. So some people are very, very sceptical about the issue, particularly climate change, and other people are completely on board. So that's made it a lot more real, I think, as an experience for us.
I can imagine that was challenging. I can imagine it was challenging.
Yes,
very. It wouldn't be interesting if it weren't.
It was challenging because you have so many creatives in one space. And we're all creative, even though we're not actors or whatever. I've acted in theatres, but it's not about whether you act or not. You're still creative because you're made with energy, you're given life, and you can channel that into something creative. So it's challenging when you've got different personalities and you have different creatives in this room. But the joy of it is putting everything in a pot and just seeing something just immerse and just grow. And like you said, you enjoyed it. So where we started from scratch and we only had the first, second scenes, we created all the others, and no night has been the same. So thanks to you, Paul, like we were able to come up with an ending, and also the guys here, they put it together as well. So yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to cut it short. I have to introduce you to our youngest member.
Oh.
I know you're all looking at me. As we know, black don't crack, so... so this is Anwar.
Okay, yeah.
How old is Anwar?
Polish.
Sorry. How are you? Oh, I just turned 18 and bottom.
Oh, really? By the way, he's the one that made the video.
This is what was.
Hold on.
You guys will probably know me best as Dave, the filmmaker. I made him like to introduce you guys to the estate and everything like that. So yeah, coming here has been like a very good introduction into the topic as well, because I've been surrounded by a lot of good role models. We're very mature, aren't we? Most of the time you guys are like mature, but I guess in those times where I wouldn't say not mature, but
Ross is watching you.
That's it. Speak the truth, man. In times where everyone's open with each other, I feel like it makes me feel a bit more safer going into adulthood, knowing that I can still be myself.
If we managed it, you know.
You guys managed it.
And we have another member of our team. She's right there, she's trying to hide. Where is she? She's trying to hide.
Because you know that I could run without a woman behind it.
She's trying to hide behind the curtain.
She's not here.
Come, Sylvia.
Oh, she's not here.
You're next. Don't hide.
So we've got to start making our way down now.
So this is Sylvia. As you see some of our costumes, my Hugo Boss was designed by her. I let her speak for herself.
I just, I know Tony from like a long time, and it was a call out, and I wasn't aware of like sort of the Black Men's Consortium, but having joined and met these guys, but I think it's a much needed like group, and because you know, men have always got this thing about being like macho, and I think it's fantastic that there's a safe space for them to be able to speak their truth and be vulnerable, and they're great guys, and the dynamics and stuff, there's like clashes, I've kind of like seen it, but somehow they always manage to work it out, so it's been interesting.
Next, I'd like to give a big shout out to this young lady. She's talented. You know, she's the only young person who could tell me about my timekeeping. Every time I was late, she used to look at the watch and say, "What time you calling?" The Pearl.
Hi, I'm Pearl. I was a visual designer for the show. It was a good challenge because it was all improv, so everything was like last minute, but it kept me on my toes. And Yeah. Yeah, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
One more person to introduce you, and he's making a hell of a racket. And it's not over there, it's over there. A man like Roger.
So I'm going to keep it brief. I know Tony from way back, and as one of my walks, as I'm sort of recovering from cancer treatment, radiotherapy and all that, I bumped into him literally just outside the theatre as he was coming in, and we got chatting, and I said, look, I've been out of the thing for a while, but I want to get my toes back in the water. So I just jumped in, and I've just been helping out with where the gaps were, which ended up being mostly the technical stuff. That's it.
And finally, as a token of affection, Pearl, because of your quality. Sylvia, as your quality.
Can I get some?
And for Anwar, you are a celebrity, you get celebrated.
I just want to say thank you to Fidel for that amazing live music. So, there's two things that you can do tonight to help us. Two simple things. One is to get your phone.
One last thing,
and
I
take
just
the
want to
picture.
say a big thank you to Eve and Nebby from Brixton House, the technical department, who I would not have survived.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I think we didn't really have an answer in terms of what's come up tonight, because I certainly realised, working in the community is very messy, it's difficult, it's challenging, but it gives us a kind of sense of hope that of people who are living together, we can come together and have a conversation about what perhaps could be done. So I want to thank you for that, and it's given us a lot of hope going forward.
Thank
you.
Okay, thank you.